right, Victor Ogale there on some of the events that unfolded today. And I'm now joined by Ekwe Ethuro, who's the Speaker of the Senate and was part of the speeches that were given today. We did hear from him in as far as his thoughts on how devolution is faring 2 years on. Thank you very much, Speaker, for joining us. Let's begin with the question of accountability. And we have seen in the past governors being summoned by the Senate to answer to queries on their expenditure, and they've declined to do that. And this has raised concern as far as the sanctity of devolution, the money that is meant to be going down to the grassroots, not quite making it there as it should. What is it that you see, in your opinion, must need to happen to ensure that this does not continue to be the case?
First, I want to say today was a great day for the devolution family, who had both the national and the county governments and all the stakeholders coming together, including His Excellency the President. Two, on the issue of accountability and whether the governors come or not, I think it's important to say that only a few governors have not honored the summons. Most of them have done so, and the few that have not come, it is true we get concerned in terms of accountability. The Senate has a special role in terms of ensuring that the resources are allocated to the counties. And the same role also demands that we oversight over the same resources.
All right. On the issue of legislation, the Council of Governors has raised the red flag on some 30 pieces of legislation, either in the form of bills or acts already, and said that they're reversing the gains of devolved functions. And of course, in the past, we've also seen what has been described as supremacy battles between the Senate and the National Assembly. So in terms of law, again, how do you plan to safeguard devolution?
That is one issue I also raised today, that there are bills that have been coming through one house without the input of another one, which are basically unconstitutional.
Right.
We have threatened to go to court as the Senate again, but we felt like let's give dialogue a chance. But failure to do so, we will definitely seek judicial interpretation.
Yeah, and one of the areas we've seen quite some antagonistic relationship between the Senate and the National Assembly, or not reading from the same script. We now have the Senate approving 7 billion shillings extra to the counties, and the National Assembly's Budget and Appropriations Committee is advising members of Parliament to reject the same. What do you say about that?
No, that one is that's a straightforward matter. Each house considers a bill as if it's a new bill, and depending on the information you get, depending on the public participation, maybe the Senate has more relationship with the counties, so they feel for the counties, they know what the counties need. And so if you look at the finance report that make that recommendation from the Senate, it's very elaborate on the kind of sectors that require that money. And I think today it was affirmed by the chairman of the Council of Governors himself. So I don't think it's a matter of just spiting one house or the other. The Constitution also anticipated that possibility and created a mediation mechanism. So we'll go into a mediation, try to argue. That's a political process. That's the way it should be. And in the two previous cases where we have had mediation committees, we have always agreed.
Yeah.
So I'm not completely worried.
And your Deputy Speaker the other day criticized, moving on to matters judiciary and their involvement and how they play a role in matters devolution, criticized the judiciary for what he described as interference in a form on the matter of the Governor Wambora, where the Senate has endorsed impeachment twice, and yet this process continues to be in the courts. And he argued he might end up staying in office for the remainder of his tenure.
I think it's a good observation, but I don't think we are really criticizing the judiciary. We are just making observations that, one, there is a political process. It is true there was a time when the judiciary was attempting to stall the parliamentary processes, but I think that has been changed. The second determination on the Governor Wambora's issue was that actually Governor Wambora should not be in the office. That's a fact determined as well by the judiciary. What he did was to ask for a stay of that particular ruling as he appeals, which is a normal judicial process.
All right. And your thoughts on one of the things we heard from Raila Odinga today earlier on was that scrap the devolution ministry, that you have the independent governments at the county level. Now we don't need a ministry of devolution. Your thoughts?
We need a ministry of devolution. I am not sure whether the former prime minister said that we don't need the ministry. Maybe you heard better than
He
me.
said it.
Okay.
Yes.
But we definitely need a devolution ministry, because remember, and I quoted, that the Constitution obligates each one of us, including the national government, to enforce devolution. So which mechanism will the national government use, even though through a ministry of devolution?
So it must be there, in your
It
opinion.
must be there.
What do you see as the biggest challenge 2 years on and going forward that must be rectified to again secure the sanctity of devolution?
I think to me the major challenge is just a lack of appreciation by everybody, especially the critical players in devolution, that counter governments is not an opportunity for us to enrich ourselves. It's not an opportunity for us to become the imperial presidents that we refused as a nation. It's a time for service and to provide proximate services to the citizens.
Do you think those governors who are mentioned in the list of shame should have stepped aside?
That's a good one. Ideally, I mean, when you have nothing to hide, there is no problem for you stepping aside. But they are also raising some serious legal issues, which I think will require some a relook.
Legal issues, but in terms of just an appeal to their conscience, should they step aside, do you think?
I think that's what the president said today as much. I mean, if you know you are clean, please step aside, because you will be cleared. Okay. I mean, stepping aside is not a condemnation to be unemployed.
All right.
Yes.
We thank you so much for making time to join us this evening. Speaker of the Senate, Ekwe Ethuro, with us there as the National Devolution Conference today. Day 1 is over. There's still day 2 and 3, and we'll continue our stay here in Kisumu and bring you all the details as they unfold. For now, it's back to Nancy, and we'll